Hey there, so welcome to this Loom recording for your designs in review, and thank you to everyone who has submitted a design on the thread for me to go through here, because this is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and that's looking at design and seeing how we can really improve it for you and your launch. So design isn't just about creating something that looks good. It's about creating something that looks good, but also connects and communicates clearly who you are, what you do, what you stand for with your perfect customers, and gets those perfect customers inspired to take action with you. Because that's really the secret trick to using a design as a marketing tool for your business. And it really is a marketing tool when used correctly. So I'm going to run through a couple of the designs that have been shared. Well, I'm going to go through all of the designs that are shared, but I'm going to just briefly talk through a few tips and tricks that you can use on these designs, but also in all of the designs that you create for your launch, to be able to really harness that power of design and use things such as fonts and colors and styles and layouts and imagery to really encompass your brand message and showcase what it is that you're really selling. Because you do know this, everyone knows this, but we are so attracted to visuals in our day-to-day life. I mean, visuals really are where we first start with learning. And yes, your content is really important. Yes, your copy is really, really important. All of those things are so important. But if people aren't actually looking or paying attention to what you're putting out there, and that really starts with the visuals you use, then they're not going to read your sales page. If the promo post that you put out there that links to your sales page isn't capturing anyone's attention, they're not going to click on it. They're not going to go through to your sales page or your opt-in, and so they can't begin that journey with you. So understanding how to use visuals as a marketing tool in your business is a really key aspect of any launch. And that doesn't have to mean that you spend hours slaving over design tools, and it doesn't mean that you have to spend thousands of pounds with a designer. There are some really simple tips and tricks that you can learn to DIY your own graphics, and so I'm going to share some of those with you here. So let's get started then, before I kind of witter on for too long talking to you about design. So first up, the very first, we'll start at the beginning. We'll start at the first post. So thank you, Catherine, for sharing this. Now, I really like the overall layout actually for this design, because it really speaks to me. I quite like clean, clear design, and it's got orange, and orange is one of my all-time favorite colors. You can probably see, maybe if this is recording, down in the bottom here of my face, which I probably should have put a bit of makeup and done my hair on, but never mind. You can see orange behind me. I love orange, so this really kind of calls to me. But I like how straight and to the point it is. So if that is part of the message that you're putting out within your brand, then this is great. Big thumbs up to that style. If it's not, then of course you need to kind of look at what your core values are and what your core message is, and who you're really trying to connect with, and make sure that the design and aesthetics that you're using fit that. So quick example, if you want to connect with people who are kind of very straight and to the point and quite clear cut in the way that they think and the way that they process things, and you're actually delivering something which is quite process led, that there's a system involved, doesn't mean it has to be dull and boring. I love systems. Systems are great, but I'm also quite quirky and creative. Then something simple and straight lines like you've got here, block colors, sans serif fonts, which is the main font that you're using. Really, really great. That connects to that core message. If on the flip side, say for example, you wanted to connect more with on the women, we're talking women in insurance here. So if you're talking more to the kind of free-spirited, natured, woo-woo style kind of women's organizations, then if that was the type of people you want to connect with, and that's the kind of person that you are, more spiritual in the way that you will be delivering this information, then you'd want to use a more flowing text and more softer colors and freeform lines and things and imageries like that. So you can kind of just see how those two image and visual styles really back up and enhance your message. So with the design that we've got here, a couple of things that I would look to do to just really enhance it, because overall I do think it's a good ad. First up, the image in the background. Now, I like the picture itself. It's quite nice. On the left-hand side, it's got some real kind of intrigue and with the sparkly lights in the background. That's quite nice. But To me, it's really saying something more along the kind of technical side of things. So it's a little bit kind of dull in that sense, and I say that in the nicest possible way. It says to me that this is a place where you're going to go to get kind of technical about writing your CV or something like that, and it's going to be kind of about career, but it's more going to be about the technical side of doing things like that. Whereas from your copy, I'm reading into this that it's more about the kind of community element, and that you are here to create something where people are going to, women in insurance are going to be connecting and progressing their career. So if it's a community based feel, then the image in the background really should reflect that. So people can instantly see that, okay, this is a place where I'm going to feel inspired by a big group of women. And it's going to be more about connection and progress rather than the kind of sitting at a computer typing away. So one place I would recommend going to, and this is for everyone looking for images, for great free images, is Unsplash. So I've just typed in here career and to see what comes up. And we've got a few different groups already that you can go in and have a little look at for images that are free to use based around the theme career. So I'm just going to click on this first one because it's got 29 photos in, and we can have a little scroll through. Now, these have got some interesting kind of ideas that have already cropped up. So you may not have necessarily have thought about this using this kind of imagery, but by typing it into this search tool for photos, it comes up with some great ideas that really might spark your creativity with these ads. So just kind of scrolling through, a couple that sing out to me. Now you might think, actually, I was initially thinking community, let's put a group of women in that. But that's quite a tried and tested and done image style, which isn't necessarily going to stand out and grab people's attention. So yes, you could put a group of ladies sitting around and have that community feel, but I'm actually really quite drawn to this image. Now, I have seen and I have used this image before. It's something that I definitely love. That adventure begins here. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit quirky. So if that speaks to the kind of market that you are talking to, the kind of women that you want to attract, then that would be a really great image to use in the background. If it's not, then keep scrolling, keep looking for something that's slightly different. So we could perhaps put into the tool, let's look at women. And see what images come up here. So there's a lot of working images, and this one's popped up a couple of times. It's a little bit corporate, it's a little bit dull. So maybe try a different search. So let's type in friends, because community support, friends, that could be a key tool to really be talking about. So let's look through some of the images that this pulls up. Now it's interesting, it's got, you could take different stance on this. I mean, that's quite a cute image. It's kind of looks at connection. It's a circle of friends. Then there's this kind of style, which is going on an adventure. I think something like that really stands out. It's a different kind of image, and it might play to that aspect of your perfect customer, if that's something that actually they would be aspiring to and thinking about. So you do need to keep in mind your perfect customers at this point. And I quite like this image because it's different and it stands out. And if you saw that on an advert, you might think, hang on a minute, what's this got to do with what we're talking about? And again, for here, this is quite a nice image. It looks like it's a community, it's solidarity, it's women. So that's some of those core words. So if you think about it in that way, look at what the core message that you really want to be getting across is about this community that you're building, and then search for images that really showcase that, and make sure you look for something which stands out and is different. It's not the same old kind of stock image styles that you see out there, which is why I like Unsplash. It has some really great images. So I'd be tempted with something perhaps like this one, or maybe even this one, because I like the style and the textures behind. But again, it really depends on that message that you're trying to put out there. So if you want something that's a little bit alternative and a bit quirky, then this style would work. If you want something that's speaking more to the kind of corporate sense of things, then perhaps go back to using something like this image. If you want something that speaks more to the kind of end goal of what you're achieving in your career, which is, freedom and support, to be standing around on a beach with a group of friends, then use that kind of imagery, something that really shows what they want as an end goal from going through all of this. So there's some great pictures here. Have a little look through and find something that really connects with and so once you've found an image that you're happy with and that really connects with who you are and who your perfect customers are, then drop that in the background. And one more little tweak that I would look at for just adding a bit of psychology into the design that we've got here. So fonts are in the same way that colours are very good connectors with the kind of internal dialogue that we have amongst ourselves. So they do speak directly to your perfect customers, and they create connections and feelings and emotional connections with what you're saying. So there's a great example online of that I think I used in one of the training videos that's inside Sold Out Launch, which shows kind of one key message displayed in two different font choices and how it can completely give a different sense and a feel. So if you have a little look at the training that's inside Sold Out Launch, you'll be able to see this in a little bit more detail. So what I would look to do with the text that you've got here, you've got two kind of main fonts. You've got your serif and a sans serif fonts, which are a great combination. I really love that combination because you've got, first of all, in this sans serif font, you've got that feeling of real kind of clarity, and it's straight and it's to the point, and it's a bold font, and it's in all caps, which really gives that kind of dominant feel. It gives a feel of, I know what I'm talking about here. I am the authority. This is the place to go if you want the authority on this subject, which is a great message to put out there in the font choices that you're using and the design aesthetics that you use. Whereas the serif font that you've got, that you're using in the URL at the bottom, it has a softer approach and a softer feel. Again, because also it's in the italic version of it, it gives that feeling of a deeper kind of connection with who you are personally. It makes it feel more personal rather than being kind of straight into the point all the time. So I would look at really combining these two fonts a little bit more. So for example, if we were to take Women in Insurance and remove that font that we've got here and use the font that you've got along the bottom instead, that will give a completely different feel to the messaging that you are putting out into this. It will just break up as well these 3 lines of copy and help your eye focus on the right message. But actually, at the moment when you are looking at this page, you're drawn to this line of text, and that's because it's the only text that's in a different font on the page. So naturally, we will be looking in this area. We'll also be drawn to it because you've got this graphic, which is an arrow, so naturally you are looking down to the point of the arrow. That's the point of using arrows in design. So you want to kind of combat against everyone's eyes just looking straight down at the URL, because first of all, you really want them to read this message and you want this to stand out. So I would look at changing this font first of all, and maybe using the font that you've got for your URL in the middle here, keeping it in all caps or using it in kind of sentence case, completely up to you. And if you don't feel that that is actually putting the right kind of message out there for you, if that distracts too much from the style that you want to project, if you are looking to kind of keep things very much straight and to the point and keep that kind of sense and feel, then instead I would look at making this line of text larger and making this bit here smaller, so that when you land on this page and when you look at this design overall, this is the piece that really stands out to you. Because at the moment these two lines of text are competing with each other, and you want this information to stand out first. You also want the connect, progress and promote to stand out, then the call to action, which is your join the career progression community, and the URL are actually secondary to that. You want to hook people in first of all, as I say, with your hook, and then lead them into the call to action. So I would bring this line of text up a little bit, perhaps even use this dotted section in the middle between Women in Insurance, Connect, Progress and Promote. So you're really making these two bits stand out as almost as a logo on its own. So you'd have Women in Insurance as your text-based logo and Connect, Progress, Promote as the subtitle, and then use Join Our Career Progression Community exclusively for, maybe drop the caps out of that so that becomes sentence case, and then use this kind of URL section as well in the same font as these two. So to give you a quick look at what I mean, sometimes it's easier to see things visually. I'm going to just quickly type this out so you can have a little look at what I mean. Okay, so there you can see two examples of just tweaking how you can tweak the fonts, and you see there how that gives a completely different impact to the design and the way that the eye flows and reads the information that's on the page. So hopefully you found that helpful, and if you've got any questions at all, then please do feel free to tag me in the comments underneath this video. Any questions that you have, I will be more than happy to jump online and kind of go through those with you and really help you make sure that you create the best and most high converting offer that you can with this design. So next up. Hey Laurie, so thanks for sending over this collection of your designs. It's really great to see actually a few examples, because I can give you a bit of guidance over the full kind of brand set that you've got going on. So first up, looking at your Facebook page banner and the Twitter banner and the header for the sales page. So these all here on the left hand side. I'm a little bit confused over the kind of core message that you've got here. See, first of all, the thing that's standing out the most is coming soon. So that really means nothing to me or your perfect customers. So you want to kind of change that and tweak that around a little bit. Obviously your colours you've got here are great. You've got colours that you're using, but there's a slightly difference here with the kind of the border, the background. So you want to look at that and making sure that this stays kind of consistent throughout each of these headers. So first up, the Confident Kid emotion coaching, or the emotions coach. So I'm assuming your name here is the emotions coach, and is Confident Kid emotion coaching the name of the product that you're launching? I'm kind of assuming so. If so, let's look at making that a bit clearer in the design here. So first up, on the header page at the top, I'm assuming you've got this kind of border around because this graphic is already set in stone on its own. So I would look at creating the background here for this Facebook page banner, putting that in the green colour, because there's no reason why it needs to be in that purple background. So let's just make it green, and then you can get rid of these kind of borders that are sitting here. The way that you've used your image on this second banner works really well. So let's pull this style layout with the triangle and the background and the image that then sits nice and neatly in this border. Let's use this layout for your Facebook page banner, because there's no reason why the two can't be the same, and they really kind of should be, to have consistency throughout all of your brand styling. So I would use this template design that we've got for this content and just change the text around a little bit. So here we've got 3 different types of fonts that are being used. You've got this Coming Soon font being used. You've got your plain fonts for your body copy being used, and then you've got this Confident Kid, the Emotion Coach font. So between these fonts, you need to choose between the Confident Kid one and the Coming Soon one, because when it comes to using kind of a mix of fonts, it's best to use 2 to 3, but within that, making sure that you use only one kind of hand style, because these two fonts together are really quite conflicting. You wouldn't want to put them on the same page together, and so you don't want to use them in the same kind of branding set, because this information here looks like it could belong to a different program to this information here. So let's get a bit of consistency with the fonts and just stick with your Confident Kid font that you're using here and the font that you use for emotion coaching, and let's just set up a couple of kind of brand style guides when it comes to that. So anytime that you say the Emotions Coach, that should always be in this font, because we're going to use that almost as your logo. I assume that kind of is your brand mark, your logo mark. For your business, and so the same with the Confident Kid. That's the main name for your course. I'm assuming here I'm making lots of assumptions, but it's good to make these assumptions because it shows you how other people viewing your design will also be making these assumptions about what it is that you're offering. So a couple of tweaks. Let's make this background in the same format as the one below it. Let's give Confident Kid Emotion Coaching its own kind of logo identity. So we're going to bring that in and put that in the middle here and have Confident Kid slightly larger. Emotion Coaching I would reduce down just so that the E kind of sits comfortably under the O there, and the end of the word coaching sits between the I and the D. Just visually that will bring your eye to focus more on Confident Kid as being the main name, and then Emotion Coaching is your sub header underneath. I'd get rid of the full stop as well because it's not needed in this context here, and it's such a different font style almost to the text, it really stands out and kind of gives a bit of a jar. So that then becomes almost your logo for this page, and let's have the Emotions Coach. If you do need to keep it on there, we'll bring that and keep it still down in the bottom, but I would actually suggest maybe removing that, because if you're not talking about the Emotions Coach as being the product that you're selling here, you're talking about Confident Kid, Emotion Coaching, then you don't need both of these. They just distract from each other. So let's make this the main focus. Your image, love this image, really nice. I really like it in the sepia kind of blacked out tone that you've got here. So let's stick with that as being the style that you use for your imagery. If you prefer, you can obviously keep the full colour version, but I think this works really nice. So I'd be keen on using this style for your imagery and keeping that then consistent across all of the brand image styles that you use. So applying it again to this style of image, but we'll get onto that in a moment. So click to get on the wait list, and this little arrow, Coming Soon, that information all needs to be on there, but it needs to be a bit smaller. So layout wise, let's look at having Confident Kid Emotion Coaching right here in the middle, have your image on this side using this layout style, and then Coming Soon and click to get on the wait list could be much smaller and over in this center. So again, I'm just going to quickly do a little text layout to give you an idea of what I mean.